Good evening.
Good morning.
Yes, it's morning for you, and it's dinner time for me. You just said brekkie,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, that's the time difference. But in all honesty, I just said brekkie too. Like that. I didn't get up. I didn't get up.
Mm-hmm.
Just- so, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us in chat. It's nice to see you all coming in. Thanks for the honoring there, Turtle Moves. It's good to see you. Yeah. Hey, Liam, Jin, Christola. Been a while. Good to see you too. And hello over in Twitch, Maggie. Thank you for joining us over there. And thanks for giving me the follow. I appreciate it. She's saying hi to both of us there. Can you see them in the do you have the regular chat? I mean the
Yes, I do.
joint chat so you can see everything too. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this one was an interesting chapter, huh?
Yes, this one's actually quite a fascinating chapter.
It was difficult, I'll be honest, with for me at first to wrap my head around it. I'm sure you know because I tortured you about it a little bit. Like I didn't know. I I've read it several times, but I was trying to find relatable points to it, because it's all about,
mm.
like it says, it's all about calculated momentum, and me, I'm one that like I would like to sit there and think about it first. Like I'm not always in movement. Sometimes I take a step back and I do absolutely nothing about anything.
Mm.
And eh, it kind of preaches like you always got to be on the go. You always have to be ahead of it, or at least I
Yep.
thought that's what it was saying. I thought, here's where I was wrong, and we'll just start with that. I thought they meant physically active and moving and doing stuff. Like I really I was just took the wrong impression of it because honestly, right, Rekkr? Like, I mean, when you read
mm.
it, it's not what you took, is it?
Yeah. It to me it was uh I I guess for me it was more about like there is, yeah, constantly moving, but it um in the more in a more intellectual way, like
Mm-hmm.
um like keeping like continuing, for instance, for a creative person, like continuing to be fluid and having the ability to change how they've been, how they're creating,
Mm-hmm.
even like reinventing themselves
Mm-hmm.
in as much as possible, really.
Yeah, I hate to like flip the whole way I was thinking about it because it really, when I reread it again, it's more about, like you said, keeping yourself open and to change and movement and always like instead of physically doing something, they mean always moving forward,
Mm,
not standing still in how you're thinking about things or how you're doing things, like to be open, to be progressive and to change, to hop on those trends and stuff, to be fresh, to be new, to be now, just like not getting dated, not getting like
yeah,
put out to pasture before you're ready, so to speak. Like, and that's more a mental process than it is a physical process. It's like,
exactly.
yeah. And so I was like, the reason that I was all like not getting it is because I wasn't looking at it. I took it a little too literally. Um,
Mm,
about calculated movement, about strategically planning and getting in there and doing this. I was like, yes, you got to do all of that, but it's also about, well, about being open and fluid and
absolutely.
not standing still. Uh, and yet, maybe we can stop right now because that's the whole chapter, right? Like we can go
Yeah,
home.
pretty much. Okay, thanks everyone. I hope you had a great night.
No, I just that's the mood I'm in. Sorry, Rick. I'm just like I'm in one of my, just fair warning people. You know when I always say that I'm the asshole? Like you're gonna get a clear shot of it today. Like today I just feel like the over enthusiastic, all on top of it, like kind of asshole kind of thing. No, we're
Mm,
not really even. We're not gonna go. We're gonna actually make you go through this whole thing, people.
yep.
We prepared.
You're stuck here with us now.
We prepared something, so you're gonna have to go ahead. I actually did um prepare something, like because I was kind of annoyed with myself, that I was thinking about it the wrong way, and I actually did one of the things they tell you not to do. That I overthought it so much that I paralyzed myself. I couldn't do anything about this stream and what to do about it because I overthought what they were saying so much that it made me stop and
Mm,
not be open to what they were actually saying.
yeah.
That was a bad thing. That was a bad thing. Yeah. But they do make a very valid point. That momentum itself, about it building confidence and keeping you ahead while others are stuck behind in hesitation and stuff like that. And you know,
Well,
fifty.
momentum. Well, momentum is literally that. I mean, if you put it to a mathematical thing,
Mhm.
momentum only lasts as long as the amount of energy you put into it. And
That's
if
it.
you're not constantly, actually um, putting your energy into that momentum in the things
Mhm.
that you do, the way that you move, how you think, then of course
Mhm.
it's going to just slow down.
Yeah, and they're using 50's story um about how things changed in his neighborhood and all, like
Mm,
to move him forward and everything. And I'll let you talk a little bit about that. But exactly what you just said reminded me of a quote that I wrote down about it, something I did write, that chapter is all about. Chapter 4 is all about how action destroys fear, and why, like in music and life and anything that you're going to do, that you got to just keep pushing forward, because the whole premise of the book is to conquer your fear so that you can have
mm,
power. And this is
yes.
just another one of the issues, the being in calculated momentum, action destroys fear. Being always thinking about what you're going to do next, or being open to the ideas, taking in information, it keeps you moving forward. It's action, whether you're thinking about it or doing it. It's still action. It's action moving forward,
Absolutely.
and it takes you out of that fear part, and helps you
Mm,
move forward to get the power to accomplish what you need to do, to build the confidence. And also, once I
mm.
finally got over that hump, then I kind of started to get it. I felt a little more comfortable about it. But how about you tell them a little bit about what the story they use about 50 Cent here is quite interesting. Um, on how
Okay.
to represent calculated momentum for him, like examples.
So, the story that they use is when 50 Cent pretty much started hustling in the late 80s. Um, when he got into it, it was rather chaotic. Crack had kind of hit the streets and essentially turned everything upside down. Um, Corner hustlers were basically everywhere. Um, if there was money to be made, they made sure that they made it.
Mm.
And it meant that there was huge amounts of um, competition with each other. So, like, there were obviously rival gangs. They would scheme on each other. They would have to deal with like super erratic drug addicts because I mean crack. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
ever want to if you ever want to see something done in at least 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
as
In the
well as
book,
probably having it uh, painted and some crazy conspiracy theory written all over it, find a crack addict, they'll do it for you.
the book refers to them as the fiends, like 50 calls
Mm,
them the fiends, like everybody that was purchasing. But it from the story, it did sound like there was just so many of them. It was chaotic because nobody was in charge. Everybody was their own person. Everybody was doing whatever they wanted. It was like anybody could sell this stuff because it was like
yeah.
everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Until right, yeah.
Yep. Until um pretty much shoot, I lost my place. Um until basically things the way that they had to move started to change. Um so the old way of like muscling your way into things
Mhm.
and having that godfather approach started to deteriorate. Would you say that?
I would say that, and I think the example that they use proves it really strong. They talk about a larger, more influential organization, like a grandfather type, like a godfather type, like you said. I think that was actually his nickname. Came in and took over everything, put his son in place, and they tried to strong arm everybody. They told
Mm,
everybody, you have to do it our way or you're out of here. And they tried to have only one product on the street, like all over this area, but rival gangs, and then tried to tell rival gangs, like, hey, don't interfere. Like, we'll make you money,
yeah,
but like, you got to do it our way. And 50's like, okay, but like, he sees what's coming, right? He
yeah,
backs he backs away from the power players because he's like, man, this is the streets. You can't be strong arming people like that and think there's no consequence. Like, he was
not
smart.
at this
He
time. Yeah,
he backed away, and within a week, like, they were all assassinated by the
mm,
rival gangs. Like,
yep,
and he said this, you can't, you got to work with people. You can't like strong arm people because eventually they rise up. Like, he's trying to use that as an example of doing things the old way and not listening to the people around you. You end up getting resentment. You get people rising up against you, and sooner or later they're just going to take you out. Um, because they just wanted to do it the old way, and things were changing a lot. Like, people wanted to be independent.
yep,
Not just in this drug business, just like in general. People don't. they want to have, like, we all work for a living, right? If you work a 40-hour
Mm.
job, like, and you can push back on me in the chat if you like, people, but this is the way I look at it. We're all working these jobs for other people, right? But we're happier when we feel we have some input into what we're doing and the outcome
Yes.
of it. If, like, our opinions matter, or the quality of our work, or something, any little thing to hang
Even
on to, otherwise we resent them and we start being bad employees, right? Because I truly believe bad
yep.
employees are not born, they are made. They are situationally made in every environment. And that's coming from somebody who worked management for years. I
Mm.
know bad employees are made, that every time we have a bad employee, it's our fault somehow, some way, through the culture of the industry, through the culture of the business, through what we're doing with policy. We have made a bad employee. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you're working for somebody else, you want to feel valued. You want to feel like you're contributing.
Almost like you have a certain level of autonomy within the company,
Exactly.
even if it's just a facade of
Even if
autonomy.
it's super, like, superficial, even if it's
Yeah,
like our wild,
superficial.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just want to feel like you're a part of it. Don't we all want to feel
Mm.
like we're a part of what we're contributing to? Nobody wants to feel taken advantage of or used, or you want to feel like you're part of the living, breathing thing. Um,
Exactly.
in Hey, Wilding, good to see you. So I guess my example wasn't too far-fetched, because I think we all can relate in some way to that, even if you don't work for a living, even if you're, like, just say you're at home and you're raising a family, or you're a caretaker or anything. You want to feel like you're not taking direction from one person constantly, that you're actually part of what's going on, and that your opinion about it and your contribution to it is valuable. It's valued, in that you're not just a number. Like, you can't just be replaced.
Mm.
Even though, in reality, most of us can in a capitalist society, but still, you don't want to feel that way
Yeah,
while you're
exactly.
doing it. Yeah.
You want to at least have some feeling of security, because if you don't have any feelings of security, you tend to, well, fall back onto
Fear.
just anxiety
Mhm.
and inaction, because when you are in that sense of, oh God, what's going to happen, people will often just freeze up. I mean,
Mhm.
how many times have people how many times have we, like, been planning something, and something gets thrown into the mix, a spanner gets thrown into the gears,
Mhm.
and it might not even be something big, it might just be a small hiccup, and we freeze.
But
We don't know
that's
how
the
to deal
thing.
with it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This chapter is trying to tell us how, with calculated momentum, we can deal with it,
Mm.
especially with your spanner reference. Because, just like Jin said in the chat, and I can't believe you brought that up, Jin, because that is going to come up. That's one of our references that we use for later on when we talk about the four models of flow for calculated momentum. Uh, Bruce Lee does come up, and right now, in what we're talking about in the beginning of the chapter, being like water is key. It's
Mm-hmm.
about not being no longer is being the solid tree or being the rock that doesn't move the important thing in anything you want to accomplish. It's being like water, so that you can handle all of the situations. Now, it doesn't
Mm.
mean don't take shape or form or settle on a path or an opinion. It means the adaptability, the fluidity of water, of how water finds its own way all the time. And
Yep.
you gave me a perfect example when we were talking
Yes.
about it the other day. And I think you should tell them about that, because it really struck me, because it was so true about the water reference. Like, it's so calming about water.
Well, so I've done a little bit of construction, and I was working on the foundations of a skyscraper that's going to be built in Auckland City. And this skyscraper happened to be, like, I think they said it was 100 meters away from the ocean and about 20 meters below sea level. And all my all my job was essentially just plugging holes. And
Mhm.
my supervisor um, said something to me that sort of is super obvious when you think about it, but it didn't hit me until a little bit later. They said, no matter what, as hard as you might try, water will always find a way to ruin your day.
Mhm.
It will always find a way to get through something. The best you can do is try and mitigate it and try and restrict it as much as possible. And sort of it sort of made me think, well, if you are going to be like water, it is also important to, be able to control it. Because like water, say say you spread it out really thin, it's going to dry up and disappear. And what's the use of being water if you just dry up and disappear?
Exactly. It's true because, like, as much as they're building that foundation and they don't want water to come in, they have to be prepared for the water to get in, like somehow, some way, because it is going to. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's the thing. Just stay that fluid. Like, if you are like water, there's nothing you can't do. There's nothing that's going to take you off your path, because everything that happens, you're going to use to your advantage, or you're going to find a way to move through it to where you come out on the other side better, with more knowledge, or more skill, or another opportunity of some type, because your eyes are going to be wide open, they're going to be ready.
Exactly.
Because the key is with this book is to keep the other lessons of realism in opportunism, in mind as we move through calculated momentum, because they kind of all fit together in conquering the fear that keeps us all standing still, or keeps us a victim of what's going on around us. And I use that word kind of loosely, and I don't mean to victim, meaning victim in just the basics of it, where we're reacting to everything coming around us. We're the result of something happening. We're the end result of something happening by other things around us, instead of being the one in control and the one in power, to where no matter what they do, they can't really turn us into a victim or have control over the outcome for us as much as they'd like, because shit happens. That it is what it is. Life is not always excellent.
No, and
No.
it's pretty good at not being excellent. It's very good at it. And it always happens at the most inopportune times,
Yeah, exactly. You
like
know.
my internet.
Yes, or like mine, like the other day. Or I actually, after being so upset about being late for my stream the other day, Rekkr, I don't know if you know, like my internet was out for like almost an hour, and I had to catch up on the trial. And then the next day, I got up early and I got too comfortable, leaned back and fell asleep, and still started the stream late. Like, but this time it was all my fault. The first time I was blaming it on everybody else, like the internet, this, that, and the other thing, because that's what happened. The next time it was just like, be careful what you ask for, because like you're still gonna start the stream late because now it's
Mm.
you. Like I was just like, oh man, like definitely no. But when they talk about water, again, they're going to use Miles Davis as a reference here, because like when he did with R&B and everything, and like the bebop thing. Okay,
Mm.
well, he saw the person that actually created the bebop not want to move about it and become stagnant and resentful. And they actually just forgot about him. They just dropped him off. He just was not cool. But then again, everybody knows about Miles Davis because he ran with it and he flowed with it and he changed it constantly and he didn't let them label him. Every time they thought that they had everything pegged, he kind of moved it along. He did not allow them to actually make him only one thing, that because to him that was like a death sentence, that would be career ending. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
I think he even made it a conscious effort to
Mm-hmm.
reinvent himself every so many years
Yep.
just to keep himself fresh. And he was actually praised for it as well, always
Mm-hmm.
being said that he was on the cutting edge of his genre or whatever he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you've got a couple of questions in the chat, not actually related to the stream, but kind of because they want to know if you got your computer fixed. In
Oh, it's still currently in being looked at. Uh, the people might the guys that are trying to fix it are having a little bit of trouble, as far as I understand. Just it's it's never simple with me. It's it's it's
Mhm.
it's never simple. But I'm
No.
hoping to have it up and running soon. And I am thinking about doing some other streams.
Oh, you mean except for gaming? I know
Mm.
gaming, you need that GPU. Like that's what
Oh
that
yeah,
whole.
absolutely.
I know Miss Cassandra herself. She was asking me yesterday about new games that were coming out, like Oblivion and stuff. If you were going to be playing that, and I was like,
I want to play
you know,
Oblivion remastered. That looks so good.
you hear his voice, Mrs. Cassandra. That's why I didn't ask him yesterday because I know he doesn't have his GPU, and he'd be like salivating and be
It's
bummed out that he can't do it.
I want to get I want to get it. I really badly want to get Oblivion.
Yeah. But here you are talking about doing new different kind of streams, and that's like the example of water. You're taking your
Mm,
busted GPU and your normal gaming streaming cycle, and instead of like you're just looking at what could have been like a very well, obviously it's a depressing moment. You can't play, you love to play, and you like to
mm.
stream, but turn it into something else, keeping your mind open to that there might be other things you can do in the downtime, you know?
Being able to adapt to the problem, turn a problem into a solution.
Right. Like, actually being able to do this even with your university schedule, that's
Mm,
pretty momentous. Like that's different opening it up. And I don't know. I'm learning. I'm enjoying it because I'm actually learning stuff as we go. It's opening my eyes to some patterns that I had and not like and some things that could actually help me also. So it's kind of really cool. Well, and I can't believe I'm taking life lessons from 50 Cent like that. I never thought that would happen. Like seriously.
yep. Life lessons from a gangster.
I know, right? From a gangster who's a millionaire now. Turtle Moves, I don't know how I'm ruining your day, but talk to me. Like I can't tell you that I'll change it, but I'd like to know how I'm doing it. I mean, I make no promises that it can't stop whatever it is that's ruining your day. But since you made that face, I think you're joking anyway. I hope I've ruined you just the right way. I hope I've ruined you good.
Taking notes on how to how to just ruin everyone. We're gonna figure it out for everyone. We're gonna ruin everyone's day eventually.
I ruined everyone's day last night with Black Mirror. If you haven't seen the episode, I definitely ruined it for you. That was fun. That was definitely fun. But then, all right, so we don't want to keep him here forever. We should up. So, all right, we talked about the Miles Davis. So now let's talk about that fearless approach of how you can do this calculated momentum. And this is where they really start getting in heavy talking about the water. Is a part of a new concept for all of us with this calculated momentum. You got to replace, and this is right from the book, old stalwart symbols of power, like the rock and the oak tree that I mentioned, with water, just like we were talking about, because it
Mm-hmm.
has the greatest potential force in all nature, and it can adapt to whatever comes its way, moving around or over obstacles. Water can actually destroy rock, like it could wear it down to nothing.
I
In
mean,
there wouldn't even be oak trees without water. So like,
life
it's a
wouldn't exist without it.
yeah, so it's a form of power. Does not mean you simply give in to what life flows. Like I said, it's not about just going with the flow. and just drifting
Mm.
along. It means channeling that flow in your direction, using whatever comes in your direction, letting it add force to your actions, accepting what's going on around you and using it for you, but never standing still in it. You know, it's kind of like, well, we used a job and employment before to show that you want to be a part of something. Well, also, what if you just lose your job that day? If
Exactly.
if you don't act like flow, if you don't follow the flow of water, if you don't act like water, if you don't be like water, like my friend Jay says every time we part, he says, "Be like water, my friend." Like, don't let the stuff get to you. Let it wash over you. Let it flow. Be a part of it. Let go. In If you lose your job, what are you going to do? You're going to be a little bummed, but are you going to sit there and not get another job? Or, well, maybe you won't get another job. But what you should be doing, if you're being like water, is using that opportunity to reassess your life and decide what you actually want to do right then and there. Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to be a consultant? Do you want to get another job? Do you want to look for something temporary and then move to something else? Do you want to tap into your savings and take a long awaited vacation? But what you want to be is water. You don't want to sit there and mope about it. You want to do something about it, because that way you're always moving forward, no matter what you choose.
Always moving forward.
That's where calculated comes on, right?
Hmm.
Calculated momentum. Don't just do anything. Do something that's going to be good for you. Calculate it. Think about it. Open your mind up to the possibilities that are presenting themselves right now, even in a bad situation, right?
Yes. I mean, every bad situation will in some way have something good about it.
It
Some way that will actually help you in life.
Yeah. I think of a president from the past when I think about that. One of the worst situations that America was in was during the Great Depression. It was really hard to convince anybody that anything was going to get better. We're like war and depression. We don't got food. We don't got, the markets are crashing. We don't have what people need basically. So they're not able to think of, that the government, the politics is, or anything's going to change. Like, things were bad. And FDR was president at the time, but he didn't sit there and wallow in it like he couldn't make a change, or like, I can't get people to believe me. He went right ahead and started launching the New Deal and talking to people in fireside chats, and just, he addressed it. He didn't let it sit him and cripple him, even though they told him that there was nothing he was going to be able to do to change it. But by giving the people hope, and watching him take actual actions towards making things better, gave people hope, and things started to turn around. The whole attitude of the country started to turn around. You know, so momentum has power. It just shows it. Like, if you don't just sit there and accept the facts, and you start moving with it or changing something about it, your power grows. You start to have other opportunities and the ability to change things more than you did by just sitting there and waiting, for sure.
Hmm.
Mm. Oh, boy. Hey, are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Mm. I would go, just one other note that I made on this one, Rekkr, was that with 50 cents in particular, he used this thing with the head gangster coming in and putting his son in charge and trying to tell them all what to do. He actually used this to move even quicker into the music industry, right?
Yeah.
And then what did he notice there? That it was just like this, just like the streets. Like,
It's pretty
they did
much the exact same.
yeah, they didn't want to do anything new. Always
No.
just same old, same old. They were stagnant and boring, and yeah, he noticed that right away. The
And
parallels.
and there is already a newer thing happening when it comes to marketing music. It was becoming easier and easier to be an independent artist because of sites like Napster.
Well, yeah, because the music industry was crippled by piracy.
Mm.
People wanted music, but they didn't necessarily wanted it to be doled out the way the industry wanted it. You know, and they didn't. Instead of addressing that problem, they were trying to ignore it actually and try to like penalize it instead of using it to their advantage, which the independent artists did. You know, it came up fast. Those that were successful actually worked with sites that do piracy to drib out their own artists in a piece by piece basis to actually use it for marketing and to build up hype and to get everybody interested with the notion that if you heard a little bit of it, you'd want more. And you're eventually going to get that through the industry with the full price of the albums and things like that, you know, in the records. Like that would have been smart, is to try to turn it, but instead of just fighting against it, where you lose all of the money, you know,
I
instead of,
mean, 50, even before, I think it was even a little bit before Napster, we were talking about it in one of the last streams. 50 essentially got people to pirate his music to get it out there further.
yep, he gave it away for free, all of it, so people knew who he was. Yep. That is amazing just in itself because he's not making any money on it, you know.
Mm,
But he knew, like he took the thing, like you know. Remember when he's laying on his grandmother's couch, right, with 9 bullets in him,
yep.
right, and he's listening to the radio, and he hears gangster rap, and he's thinking it's fake as anything, that these kids don't know what they're talking about. And then bingo, the light goes off. He goes, I am the gangster. I am that life. Like, I am that. That's what I need to do. And went out and did music,
And
real
he
music
absolutely
related to it, and killed it.
turned
Yeah.
that negative into a positive.
Yep. Yep. He turned those 9 bullet holes into a regenerated music career, you know. But he had all that against him, you know. The other things, like you said, he couldn't do he's already dropped from the industry. He's blackballed. He's not going to be able to do anything for years. He decides to do it all himself, like as an independent. And he decides to take the negative thing that's going on in the music industry at the time, which is piracy, and use it to his advantage. He's like, here, play this. I give it to you for free. You don't even have to steal it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Put it out there. And he got really, really popular. And everybody wanted a piece of him then. It sure didn't entice Eminem and Dr. Dre, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like it's just a good, I know that example keeps coming up, but it's like so good, you know?
It is.
Yeah. So the next part of the book goes into the steps, which is always like the first part is always the approach to fearlessness, where and that's the calculated momentum part about being like water. I don't know a better way to explain it unless anybody in the chat can come up with a better one. But that calculated momentum, to use the flow of everything to your advantage and just to be open for everything. There's no
I
better
think
example.
I
Yeah.
think another good thing to keep in mind is that, like, just like water, you shouldn't be afraid of the chaotic moments. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it stuff like that is, well, should be more exciting than anything else,
Mm-hmm.
because within chaos you can create order in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly. Exactly. Just being able to face the chaos instead of running away from it, you know, not
Mm,
going backwards is actually step one, you know.
yeah, and even using the energy from that chaos to
Hmm.
direct it in different ways.
I do like the way they put all of these different quotes in here for the book. Um,
Mm,
they use Sun Tzu, they use my favorite Ralph Waldo Emerson, they use Machiavelli, you know, a lot of 50 Cent, you know, uh, Frederick Douglass a lot, Malcolm X, you know, really strong historical figures, you know, like reminding us about Napoleon, you know, and the challenges they face. But basically, that's all in the approach, on that head first, keep moving kind of approach. But now they're going to talk about the types of flow for calculated momentum and what each one kind of represents in examples of it and how to apply it, which is something every chapter has done, in a
Yes.
way. So we'll go forward with that, because they always have like four types. They had four keys in this, into opportunism, to applying opportunism to your life. They had four keys to applying realism to our lives, and now we're going to talk about calculated momentum, which for me was difficult to see the application, and actually going through it again, now it kind of makes sense, and I hope it does for everybody else when we get to those steps. Shall we do the
Yeah,
first one?
I think we shall.
I think we should. All right. The first one that they say in the book of these keys is mental flow. That being mentally agile, not overthinking like I did and getting stuck in a pattern. Uh, and then they give some bullets about it. Let go of the need for complete control or certainty. That's a hard one. Don't we all want to feel? It's a habit, a strong habit of humans to want to control everything, you know. But in the book, it talks about that habit was developed at infancy when we were babies.
Mm,
And to actually grow and develop as adult humans, we need to let it go. We need to accept we don't have control over everything. As a baby, we try to get control because, we're a baby. We need to manipulate and control adults to take care of us. We need to scream at the top of our lungs to get them to feed us, to change us, to take care of us, to get their attention, to know that they're there. Otherwise, like, what we going to do for ourselves when you're born? Like, we're talking a newborn here. But it comes from there, the need to control and have control of a situation and manipulate it yourself,
mm,
you know? It doesn't mean be out of control. It just means you can't control anybody else or a situation, technically. You can just, you can only control yourself, how you look at the situation, how you participate in the situation, and what you do about it, period. Like, you really have no control over everybody else. Um, You've got to keep the mind moving by focusing on action rather than paralysis by analysis, which is what I do all the time. I get paralyzed by overthinking and trying to figure it out in my head. Um, I think I'm pretty good at number three. I accept my mistakes as part of learning pretty well. How about you?
well, I mean, it's isn't there a saying, master has made more mistakes than a beginner has even attempted?
Yes. Yep. And
Something
that's
something along those lines.
right. And it goes right along with the next one. Don't be afraid of those mistakes. Adjust quickly and move on. Take the lesson, learn, look at it, but don't dwell on it. Like, you are not the mistakes that you make. You are what you do about it. That one I like.
Exactly.
My Nan gave me that one. Good old Irish Nan. Yeah. You aren't the mistakes you make. You're what you do about it. Period. Like,
Exactly.
that really struck with me. Uh, and in this one from you, all the greatest innovations in history came from openness to discovery. Because one of the examples on here, they talk about in the book extensively, Leonardo da Vinci, one of the best, greatest artists out there, who was so much more than an artist, right? He learned to draw. First of all, he came from such a background that he couldn't even get a formal education. And when people think of Leonardo da Vinci and then the lack of formal education, they're like, what? Well, he was self-taught in everything, and he started with learning to draw and doing the art, and then from that he went into engineering and science, and he learned about anatomy, and he just, everything led to something else, and he was always open to going to the next step to learn something, the best that he could. He never stopped. He never stopped learning and branching out into everything. I mean, in my medical terminology books, there are Leonardo da Vinci drawings of anatomy. He took the art and then learned about the human body and how it reacts, and he dissected it and drew, and they're still used to this day. Is
And
that good?
there's actually another really good example of an openness, being open to new things and like possibilities. I believe there was a math student a number of years ago that was late to class, and there was a math problem on the board, and he mistook it for homework. So he actually went home and he solved it. He figured it out, and he brought it back to the teacher, and it turned out that that math problem was almost some sort of unsolvable math. It was, I think it was some sort of unsolvable math problem that just because he didn't know that it was unsolvable, well, and obviously lots of experience with maths, he figured it out.
You know what? And if he had been in the class and learned that it was an unsolvable problem, he probably wouldn't have even tried.
Exactly.
Unless he used mental flow to stay open to it and say, well, why not? Wow, that's a good example. Like not having the thing that boxed him in brought him so far ahead,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I mean, now he's the one that solved it. He's in the history books as the person who solved that unsolvable.
Exactly.
Wow, that's something. Another example is like Jin said in the chat. Bruce Lee was known for advocating for mental adaptability. It was all about the mind. Nobody could ever tell what he was going to do. He was a great thinker in advance, and he was be like water. Don't let all of the outside stuff affect what you're going to do. Flow through it. You know, that's the other thing about water. Water picks up stuff as it goes by, does it not? Water
Yep.
adds to
It
itself.
uses stuff.
It picks up other things. It affects there's always stuff in water, isn't there? Water is
Mm-hmm.
it's never just water. It's never just water.
Nope.
If it goes down the street, it picks up all the rubbish from the street and anything that's loose and this, that, and the other, and it all just combines, but it's still water. It just incorporates everything into itself and it never stops going. I it just but that's the thing. If you be like water, you'd be like that too. You're just absorbing as you go, and it's changing how you think about things. It's changing how you may do something, how you might look at a problem, how the answer to a problem, the solution, things you might try. You know,
I think it would be safe to say that water has probably been the greatest tool in ever.
well, it's
I
life
mean,
sustaining.
look at all the things that we've actually used water for. We've used it for farming, we've
Yep, electricity.
machinery,
It's power. Water is power.
power. Yep.
It powered things before electricity did. As a matter of fact, we use water to create electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And now, that's also a good thing. I always say coffee is life, right? But actually, water is water.
I mean,
Without water, there's no life. Period. So
exactly.
it is. And the last example they used was Frederick Douglass, who taught himself to read and think critically, constantly evolving his mind to lead abolitionist thought. Because here's the thing: Frederick Douglass didn't fight his way out of slavery; he thought his way out of slavery. And that's the truth. He calculatedly thought his way out, created a plan, became an abolitionist. And even though it was life threatening, he still stayed on that and he survived. Okay. And he did it against the trend, but he thought his way out by didn't get a handout, didn't try to do it the way everybody said, didn't wait. He taught himself and got himself out of there. And that's good. That's one of the best examples for me, because when I think of the fact that that man actually just brain power, just thought his way out of a physically horrible situation, that how do you do that? But he did. He absolutely did.
At the time that he did it as well, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Because there was no assistance for him at the time, But there were other abolitionists, but they were actually pushing against him because most of the abolitionists at the time were, and this was people speaking against slavery, were ex-plantation owners or plantation owners that didn't want slaves anymore and thought it was wrong and was more for the North, and they were people of power, and they were trying to get him to tamp him down. and not to be, because it was life threatening for him,
Mm.
to be, as a black man, to say, hey, slavery is not right. And they're like, you can't say that. Why not? You're a slave. Well, that's exactly why I can say that. That was his attitude. Like, that's exactly why I can say that. I have more right than any of you to do it. Like, seriously. The fact that they pushed back against him was amazing to me. But we get to the next step, which was emotional flow,
Mm.
because the book reminds us that fear that holds us back stems from emotional blockages. The fear of what would happen. I've been here before. I just know how this is gonna go. I'm unaware of what it means, so I don't want to go there. I'm intimidated by the possibilities. I'm not sure. Let emotions move through you, but don't control you. We all feel them, right? Anxiety here in America is probably off the charts right now. I think
Oh, I
it's a
can only
world.
imagine.
Yeah, I think it's a worldwide thing, though. I think just in 2025, or just as things progress and the world gets bigger and the challenges get stronger and larger, and a little more confusing, I think anxiety in itself is increased everywhere. Um, and anxiety is an emotional. It is emotional. Would you agree? It's a physical
Yeah,
response to emotional stuff that's going on, like an emotional reaction to something. And it's the physical response of it, the inability to control it. And it's not something, if you have anxiety, that you actually can just go, oh, let's just stop that. Doesn't work that
no.
way.
I
Yeah.
think anxiety is probably one of the biggest issues out there because it seems to have the strongest control over people. I mean,
Hmm.
you, if you're having, generally, when you talk about doing something, there is always the undertone of there's an anxiety to it, and that can be quite crippling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why they tell us, like, try not to suppress your emotions, don't dwell on them either. Like, you deal with them, but don't deal with them like constantly long term. Give them give them the value they deserve, and that's not much, because an emotion technically is a fleeting kind of thing until you make it a bigger thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not something you carry 24/7. They come and go. And so the book advises that in the chapter to not dwell on them, and that we can channel some of these emotions, like fear, anger, or frustration, into a fuel for action. Because even when having an anxiety attack, is not action one of the things that we do to come out of it? Think of
Exactly.
the breathing control that we do, taking physical control of our body for a moment in how we breathe through it, or what we do, or changing our environment. Like, I know I get advised to, like, if you're having an anxiety attack and the breathing thing's not moving, get up and leave wherever you are and get into a different environment and see if that changes it. Just by taking a different perception, looking at different things, feeling different things in the environment can help.
Doing
So,
something different.
right, right.
Just
Just
and
take
just doing,
action.
even if it has nothing to do with what you're wanting to do.
Hmm.
If there's anxiety, then yeah, sometimes even just doing something completely random
Hmm.
can help mitigate that.
Exactly. Hmm. Exactly. Something like really small. Like, I'll go and put the tea kettle on. I'll go wash a dish. Okay. It just changes the physical activity part of it. And this is what they mean by action. Now, we're using that as an example, but they mean like in everything, like just taking some type of action. You've got fear and anger and frustration because you lost your job. You're feeling a little overwhelmed. Make the call for an interview for anything. Go ahead, just make that call for an interview. Take an action to help tamp down that out of control feeling that you don't have control of the situation. By making that phone call, you take control. You conquer fear. You move yourself forward. You do calculated momentum. Just making the phone call. You don't have to get the
Mm.
job. You have to do the action though. You got to put yourself in the process. You know. Um, I like this what you said about it. Let endless emotions that assail you during the day wash over you so as to never hold on to one single emotion for very long. Uh, like don't carry them forward too long. You know,
Don't
what
don't don't be the don't give the emotion momentum
exactly or power over you.
or
Now,
power. Yeah.
that doesn't mean that we're advocating, nor is the book advocating for not feeling emotion. Motion is powerful. Motion is a human thing none of us can avoid, and it is a good, healthy human thing that we all need. We need emotion. We thrive on it. Okay, what they're saying is don't let it overtake everything.
Mm,
Use it to move yourself forward, and don't let it turn into fear, because often these emotions that we have, love, happiness, joy, don't let them get turned into fear. The fear of, I'm going to lose the love, I'm going to lose the joy, I'm going to lose the happiness if this and this happens. That's what they're talking about. Don't get in that mindset. That's stagnant, that holds you back, that's going to let you not see the possibilities that are in front of you, you know? It's not telling you not to feel, is what I'm saying. Because when I first read it, I thought maybe they were just like, they want us all to be stoics, and
yeah.
that's important. That's not cool. Yes, stoics are successful. They're also very lonely, bitter people in the end. Like, that's my personal opinion. Sorry, not sorry, but yeah, you know, being stoic can get you a goal, guaranteed. It can. Being stoic cannot get you a life, a fulfilling, balanced life. And here's the key here. They're talking about balance, right? Right? What they're talking about here is keeping those emotions into balance in your life with everything else, not letting it take over. You agree? You think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I mean, I think, and I think we all go. It's stoicism is something we've all tried as well. I I know I've tried it at points in time,
Mm-hmm.
and it does. It can help. It gets you to a certain place, and then, but it doesn't ever seem to be. Uh, it doesn't have longevity.
True.
I
Or it
guess
shouldn't. Yeah.
no, and it shouldn't.
Yeah. True story. My anxiety is peaking right now because in correcting the slide, I misspelled innovatively and I forgot to underline Kendrick Lamar. I'm like slow, but I'm not gonna let it derail anything. I'm gonna be like water. I'm gonna be like, y'all know what I mean. Whatever.
Exactly.
If I was perfect, I'd be annoying. Really annoying. Anyway, the examples they used was 50 Cent, like we talked about before, turning
Turning
his fear, right? Go
yeah,
ahead, you say it.
turning
Yeah.
fear from being shot into actions in business and music. He took his 9 bullets and he turned it into 9 figures. Nine,
He
eight
did.
figures.
that that's good. No, he did. He
Nine.
he's
Yeah.
yeah, he's billionaire. Yeah, there you go. He did. Absolutely. And this one's for you too. Why don't you tell them about Kendrick? Even though I misspelled it. Go ahead.
Um.
Mhm.
Yeah. Kendrick could actually be used for pretty much all of the examples, because during his rap battle with Drake, he pretty much touched on every single aspect, from the mental flow, the emotional flow, and, well, what we'll be talking about later, social
And
and
culture.
cultural flow.
Yeah.
But I found that he really did master putting the right kind of energy in the right way to get the result that he wanted. He played so he played that game so well. He got people excited. He surprised people. He did things that were unexpected, and he turned he even turned some of the accusations that Drake plastered against him into, well, ammunition. Like in, for instance, Not Like Us, one of the accusations that Drake said was that one of Kendrick's children was his friend Dave Freeze,
Mm-hmm.
and so he made a music video, and one of the scenes in the music video is him dancing with Dave Free,
Mm-hmm.
as well as his wife.
Yep. And the kids dancing to the diss track. It was pretty
Mm,
epic. Um, he is a good story with that because you're right. He does he epitomizes all four of the flows absolutely, and I think they'll see that. Some of them may not be as familiar with his music, but like lately, you cannot like not know the name just basically because of the records he's breaking in the Super Bowl and all of the legal, even if legal. I mean, Drake tried to sue them because like of the diss tracks, but he doesn't sue Kendrick Lamar. He sues the record company, which is like tells you right there that Kendrick's doing it right. Like he didn't even sue him. He
mm.
didn't even sue Kendrick. Like he's pissed off about Kendrick's songs, but like
He
yeah,
couldn't sue him.
he couldn't sue him. The other example that they list here is one of my favorites, which is Theodore Roosevelt, because this man is president during the Depression and everything. And I know some of you had parents and all, like myself, or grandparents, who went through the Depression and all, and it altered them forever. And FDR is one of those iconic presidents during a difficult time. He was doing firesides, chats. He related to the common man the best that he could. He was also dealing with a personal tragedy at the time. Well, what turned out not to be a tragedy actually turned out to be a linchpin to his success because he overcame this personal tragedy by immersing himself in action and public service when he thought his political career was over, because Theodore Roosevelt had polio and was in a wheelchair, and he was compromised by it, and he was told that his political career was over and that no one would respect a politician from a disabled point. But when you think about Theodore Roosevelt, if I didn't just say that to you, would you be picturing the wheelchair? Because I don't. I think of all the things he did and all the pictures of him out there and all the things he said. And I never, ever think about the disability. He overcame it to a point with his deeds and used it to move forward that people didn't even see it anymore. The New Deal, exactly. Yeah, he had polio. That's what I mean, Liam. He's a polio
Mm.
survivor. And that, yep, he did. But we all think of all of the other things. And I think that's a great story too, because all of his advisors and his family and everyone except his wife was like, no, man, it's time to give it up. They're not going to look at you the same. But they sure the heck did. As a matter of fact, they looked at him as stronger, as coming through adversity, and relatable. That's the thing. It made him relatable. It showed that he was not above it all, that he has his crosses to bear too, his struggles. It made him more relatable to the common man here in America, and so they listened to him more. you know he did have Eleanor. Yes, Liam, don't even get me started on Eleanor. She's one of my favorites, absolutely one of my favorites. We'll have to do something on her later. Like, love that woman. Well, let's get to the third one. What do you think?
Yeah.
So social
Social
flow.
flow.
Mm. You want to? Can you read that, or do you want me? I don't know how big it shows up for you.
It's quite small for me, but let me try.
Okay.
um, so some of the key concepts here is moving fluidly through social environments. Don't be socially rigid or reactive. Um, Understanding group dynamics, adapting your approach to fit circumstances. So when, for instance, you're in a team working on something, it's it's always better to utilize the people around you than simply trying to do something on your own or simply doing it one particular way. More often than not, people will be able to bring their own experiences in whatever field you're you're working in to help things go better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like letting people bring their own energy, and in fact, once again, like water,
Mm-hmm.
using that energy to propel them further. Um, don't resist change in status or power. Use it as leverage. Um, when uh, I'm a
You
bit
could
tongue tied
use
here.
that. Yeah, but I have
Yeah,
a perfect example that you know about. When your company got taken over and you needed a schedule change, what happened? You,
yeah. I had to go negotiate a new contract
to your benefit,
to my
actually.
benefit, and I managed to, yeah, I got myself a better part-time contract that worked for me, and I was able to go back to uni.
While all your other employees were sitting around bitching about there being a new boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I remember that story. Like, that's why I said that's a perfect example right there. Use it as leverage. Like, don't be resisting. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to have a new boss. You don't know what they're going to be like, but it's an opportunity for things to change. And it could be good. It could be the better for you. It's better to be part of that change than to resist it. To resist it, you're going to get left out. I could tell you that a new boss sees you resisting change, you're gone. Because you're either with them or you're out. That's how it goes. If you're resisting change, they don't want to put up with you.
Exactly. I'm.
Yeah.
It's very much like how things are changing in like the manufacturing industry, where a lot of stuff is moving more and more towards automation.
Hmm. True.
Um, the companies that aren't, it's a sad fact, but the companies that aren't going to use automation are the ones that are going to suffer for it.
Hmm. I tell
Um,
you, that part about bringing your own energy is like, let people do it. That's all about, when you have to work with a large number of people in anything, just as an employee or part of a group project, or even for yourself at uni when you're doing student projects together, everybody brings a piece of it and some enhancement to it. If you don't let people be a part of it and bring their own energy, you're you're not getting all of these innovative ideas. You're not benefiting from their energy, their ideas, their thinking process. All of this can help move whatever your goal is forward, whatever the project goal or the situational goal that you're all in. If you're all accepting of everybody being a part of it, you've got more energy, more movement forward, more innovative idea, like more thought process, more people thinking about the same thing, and all in different ways because we're individuals. It can only lead to a better outcome. Because we know what happens when you don't let people do that, right?
yep.
There'll be a new
It's
king by tomorrow.
yep.
You're out and somebody else is in. Like, because like we say, we all want to feel like we contribute, right?
Exactly.
So you want to go over the figures? There's some good ones there.
Uh, well, the historical figures in this case
Hmm.
are FDR. Uh,
Again, yeah.
yep. D. Roosevelt. Um, mas- master of social flow, connecting during a crisis. Via the fireside chats, like we talked about before.
Mhm.
Managing a literal country, the 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 most powerful country in the entire world,
And
and he navigated it through a depression.
through depression by connecting to everybody right there in their houses with these fireside chats, like with this, by radio and all, like, but bringing the conversation down to the actual people that it affected the most. Everybody
Mm,
sitting home feeling like they couldn't do anything about it. It was momentous. It really was. He made everybody sitting home feel like they were part of it. That with the little things that he talked about changing, they could help, and they could help move everything forward. That it was, they were all a part of getting America through the Depression. And that was a momentous thing to do, to organize that many people into a mindset of moving forward in hope during one of the darkest times of our country. Seriously. Yeah. I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
And then
Yeah,
next
mm-hmm.
is Machiavelli, wrote on the importance of social adaptability for leaders. Being able to communicate with not only the older generation but also the younger generation, and actually being able to how important it is to be able to, you know, get down to their level or get on their level and communicate with them effectively.
It is.
Once
In
again,
Malcolm,
Kendrick did it perfectly with his diss tracks. He
yeah,
he used not only modern forms of a more modern style, but he also did a throwback with a lot of the beats back to like old school West Coast.
and now that you brought up Kendrick Lamar, one thing he did in those diss tracks was make them more universal too. Not only did he use them to take Drake down in an epic rap battle that was played out for everybody, he also used it for social connection to other things that were going on. He put
Mm,
rival gangs on stage. He united people from all over. He glorified the West Coast and showed people the things that they are great for, but at the same time honored the East Coast and brought them all in. He spoke of unity right in the middle of a diss track. Like,
yep.
that's using social flow. Would you say? I mean, that is like
Yeah.
pulling people together. And I think that's what hurt Drake the most. I think that's why he sued, because
Mm,
Kendrick is amazing at bringing people together with a message that he may mean one thing over here, but it's also kind of universal for everybody over here, you know? So he's a master of making things look like more than one thing at once, because two things can be true at the same time, you know? Well, this one was my favorite that we were talking about. You brought this one up. Why don't you talk about her? She was pretty
Queen
cool.
Elizabeth I
Mm-hmm.
used social and communication skills, turning her virgin queen status into a political advantage. Um, history
In
without uh, a political advantage in history without ever marrying a male, in a male dominated climate.
Right, they told her throughout her whole queendom, right, that if she didn't get married, it was over. She couldn't rule
Yep,
the country. Well, she
she
did anyway.
exactly. She was pretty much a master of adapting to complex court politics. She was
she
very well educated,
Yeah,
incredibly well educated. I think she knew like three languages.
she
Was it
did. She
three or
told,
four
like, she
languages?
made sure she did. And she used that virgin queen status with everyone wanting to marry her for their own status to her political advantage throughout history. They made deals, they had conversations, all thinking they were going to be the king. They were going to be the chosen. She pushed England forward with all of this. She used it to her advantage. Absolutely.
Hmm.
It was very clever. I don't think she ever was going to marry. Actually, if she did marry, it would have been quite detrimental to the country. I
Absolutely.
think.
Because
Yeah.
then the husband would have, well, isn't it
Hmm.
the husband would have taken control?
It depends on if she married a king or someone prominent in another country. Like, it would depend, but it would definitely influence the culture and the outcomes and the deals that would made, uniting another country with England in that manner. If she married an Englishman, like from her own country, then they would just be like the king consort, kind of like when the queen marries the king. They have a status thing, but they don't rule anything. Do you know what I mean? It would depend
Mm,
on how politically connected who she married was. Like, say she married the King of France. It's not necessarily good for England, is it?
nope.
Now we've got two countries. They both want something different most of the time, you know. going back and forth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. It was very political. And she just used it because everybody wanted the advantage. And she just used it to push forward what England wanted here and there. It was pretty good.
Ah, that's right, Liam. She could have made the her husband king
The
consort.
consort. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like Philip, right? Yeah, Philip
Mm-hmm.
was for England. She remained queen, and she gave him like several different positions or whatever, but nothing, that gave him the power that she had, so to speak. She still ruled everything.
And he still made her life hell.
Well, yes and no. I think they are one of those couples that I truly admire. Like they stay together. I'll tell you that. Like they knew each other very well. And they accepted each other for who they are, no matter when they were miserable about it. They or one of those couples that understood the situation they were in, and they were like water about it most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. I would say they
Mm.
would be a good example of being like water in an untenable situation. Are you ready to go to the next one?
Yes.
We'll go to the last one. Why is this not? There we go. Okay. This one's cultural flow, which is really interesting. A little more modern take on it because we think of culture, we think of now, right?
Mm.
Culture, ever changing. You're just going to talk about not getting trapped by outdated norms and trends.
Exactly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because as it says, culture is ever changing. Don't get trapped by outdated norms or trends. Anticipate shifts in society and ride the wave of culture of a cultural change. Um, for me, a few good examples is the change in the way it might not apply to everyone, but the way guitar music has actually evolved. If you listen to how guitarists would play even 20 years ago compared to now, it's entirely
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people are innovating, guitarists are innovating in their field to change things up.
Yep. Don't cling to
So,
the old ways. Yeah.
yep,
Mm.
don't cling to the old ways. Be ahead of the curve. Use culture. Use culture to your advantage. Change. Yeah, if you can, influence it. Influence the culture around you, and keep reinventing yourself.
Exactly. And it's just like it's great to stay true to yourself, but doesn't mean that you don't change, right?
Mm.
Like stay true to yourself. Well, reinventing yourself means growing with the new things that you learn, understand, want, desire as you move forward. We're growing and changing all the time. And it part of that is reinventing ourselves. You don't have to stay exactly the same. Matter of fact, when it comes to accomplishing your goals, that can be a deterrent, an actual deterrent, because you're not grasping at opportunities, you're not open to new things that maybe you look a little bit different than what people are used to. You have to be willing to accept yourself. And these are the historical figures they show it, and there's some good ones. So
Mm-hmm.
perfect examples.
Staying on the topic of music. David Bowie constantly reinventing himself. I think what even album to album.
Hmm. You never knew what to expect, and it was always glorious. Like we
Mm-hmm.
just admired his creativity so much. It was always something different, something nobody else had done. Gotta love that. Andy
And
Warhol.
yeah, wasn't he the guy that did the soup can?
Yes, he created an era. That era of art will always be known as the soup can era because he
Mm.
embraced pop culture and the silliness and shifts and turned them into art. Like, he did the four faces of Marilyn Monroe and several pop stars, all in different colors, like just the same picture over and over, like graphically, He did the Campbell's soup can, the tomato soup, that's art. It was very avant-garde. It was a whole new movement, but he owned it. He was always just changing things up and just making it different. He pretty much the way art is now, when some of the people in the chat are going to start about the can that we did on one of the shows that the guy made art. Okay. But that's because of Andy Warhol. Okay. He started this stuff for us.
Blame Andy Warhol.
We're going to blame him for letting pop culture and silly ideas become true art. Because I think Andy's point was the same as mine, that art isn't really art unless somebody buys it, and it's really good art. The more they'll pay. It could be anything. The more they pay, the better the art actually is. Which I'm not saying that there's not great artists there. I love it. Art. I could go to a art museum and sit there all day, and I love it. The classics, the Monets, the Rembrandts, like all the old, really talented, the Van Goghs, like really talented artists. But Andy Warhol did make it his own. We can't deny that. We just can't deny that. He definitely was a good example. I know Mrs. Cassandra's telling us the can was not art.
It was it wasn't pop art. It was poop art.
Stink art? Yeah.
There's an extra P on there.
I thought the funniest thing is when they open the can and there's another can inside. Come on.
Yes. The can within the jeez.
Anyway, not to get off track. But then we got Miley Cyrus, right? You came up with this one.
Yeah. I mean, if she went from
Disney, right?
TV show, I can't remember what she called,
Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana, yeah. The Hannah Montana phase. And then she went into a more raunchy phase, wrecking ball kind of thing. And now she's kind of like a modern Dolly Parton. Even her tone, her singing tone is completely reinvented.
Exactly. She's never really told anybody, let anybody tell her what style she should do. She comes from a country background. Her father is Billy Ray Cyrus. Her aunt is Dolly Parton. She's related to her.
Yeah, I believe Dolly Parton is her aunt.
She's got strong country roots, but she wanted to do things a little different, but she honors them. She's like pop. She's like hard. She's like, she writes her stuff. She just does what she feels, and she's always changing, and uses it to actually provoke dialogue and conversation about issues sometimes. Miley Cyrus is not silent about things, for sure. And
No.
she does get trashed a lot for her opinions and her activities and stuff like that, but she uses her music to overcome them and to set the story straight a lot. Oh, it's her godmother. Thank you, Mrs. Cassandra. I knew there were some connection there, but I'm not into country, so I didn't keep it straight. But, the last one of my favorites. They keep talking about Napoleon in this book, and I keep going back and researching the history more, and I keep getting more and more enamored with how he was as a general. As with his army. But he capitalized on the post-revolutionary country in France to rise to power. He actually used that before, after the revolution, to bring himself forward. It was pretty correct. He did that cultural flow thing, definitely there, by relating to the people and using it to advance himself. It was very clever. Besides being such a stalwart general. But those are the 4 keys. And to sum them up, that's bigger for you, Rek. I'm going to let you do this one.
Well, the overall summary is, with mental flow, flexibility in thought keeps fear away. Emotional flow, controlled emotions fuel fearless actions. Social flow, navigate people and power dynamics fluidly. And cultural flow is ride cultural changes rather than resist it.
Yep.
Basically, be like water.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. It just comes back to be like water. Stay flexible. Um, try your best to, keep moving, keep the fear away
Mm-hmm.
with motion. Letting whatever emotion, but also letting whatever emotions come along and just accepting them and letting them wash over you.
Mm-hmm.
Even trying to use counter opposite emotions to balance it out.
Good point. Like you, yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
making
good
sure
point.
that like if if you're having if you're having like one of those days that are like super down, try and think of something that'll cheer you up a little bit. And sometimes it's worth even doing the opposite. If if your day is going, I guess, too good, make sure that you throw in a
Ground
dose of
yourself.
reality just
Yeah.
to not let yourself get too relaxed.
Mm.
Because
Because
that's
here's the
always
thing.
very easy.
Yeah, you don't want to be too low. You don't want to be too high. If you're too high,
Mm,
you fall down too far, right? And it
yep.
becomes a problem. If you're too low, you can't achieve. You can't get past the baseline to get to where you want. So the goal is to temper each emotion to the middle. Deal with it, address it, know why you're doing it, you're feeling it, use it to power you forward in some way. Either counter it with a, like you said, an opposite emotion, so that you get rid of it, or just just deal with it for a moment, feel it, understand what's going on, and then move forward. Don't let it hold you there, because that is when you're going to get stagnant, and that's when all momentum stops. And stopped momentum leads to fear, and fear is the opposite of power.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is the end. This is the end, my friend. Since we're on music, this is the end. The reversal of perspective. They end every chapter like this. How about I read the first one, you read the second one, and then I'll close with my favorite quoter,
Sounds like a
Mr.
plan.
Emerson. So, the reversal of perspective. This is how you have to operate. You actively work to overcome this fixed nature, deliberately trying to different approach and style than your usual one to get a sense of a different possibility. You come to view periods of stability and order with a little mistrust. Something isn't moving in your life or in your mind forward if you're stopped, if you're stagnant. It's good to have the status quo, like to be comfortable, but you can't be comfortable too long without becoming still, and so still that you become stagnant and things start passing you over. Like, you're not looking for new opportunity. A new opportunity isn't looking for you. Hmm. Your turn.
And for mine, on the other hand, moments of change and apparent chaos are what we thrive on. They make your mind and spirit jump to life. If you reach such a point, you have uh, if you reach such a point, you have tremendous power. You have nothing to fear from moments of transition. You welcome, even create them. Whenever you feel rooted and established in place, that's when you should be truly afraid. In other words, sometimes making life a bit more difficult actually works in your favor.
Mhm.
And it's the times when we get most comfortable when it can be the most detrimental for us. Um, if, like, for instance, you're getting comfortable in your job and you're just sort of going with the flow, it's more often you'll just stay in that one position. If you give yourself a little bit extra, you might get a raise. You might get uh, uh, a a uh, a better position.
Mhm. Or
So,
learn a new skill, be part of a
or
new
learn a new
project
skill mm,
that could, you know.
that you can use personally.
Mhm. Yep. Well, it's hard because, like Emerson says, people wish to be settled. We all crave, we think we crave, we think we crave consistency, to be settled, for nothing to affect us, to just like we're always moving forward to that place, right? Like if I get here,
Mm,
then everything's going to be fine. Like, and if I could just like have this, everything's going to be settled and okay. But that's the thing. We're constantly doing calculated momentum to get there. And when we get there, the object is not to stop. Feel it, enjoy it, and keep yourself open to the possibilities and the opportunities of discovery all around you. Because being settled means you're not looking anymore. Being settled means you're not like appreciating everything that's around you as much. Being settled means taking things for granted. We've all been in jobs and had opportunities or even personal relationships where everything's going just fine. Well, because it's just going just fine, you start to take things for granted and you self sabotage the whole damn thing
mm-hmm.
because you're not trying to keep it fresh. You're not honoring the small changes in your relationship. You're not honoring the things around you that are changing in each of you, in the environment, in anything, because you're settled. Because, like what Emerson says, only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for us. Only as we change and adapt is there any hope for survival. And that is in our human nature. Fight or flight. I'd rather flight. I'd rather
Exactly.
keep moving. I want to keep moving.
Yes.
Yeah. This was fun. This one.
Mm.
Now it's fun. It wasn't fun when I first did it because I had no idea. I had a totally different idea about it. You know.
Mm.
Yeah. I like this. Liam says, "Be like Jane Fonda, flexible." Yep, it's true. Well, that this that that was fun, and it looked like everybody kind of went along with this too. Like they get it, they get it, you know. So
We're not that crazy.
no, this is actually, I'm enjoying this. So thank you
I am
again.
too.
Yeah, thanks
Yes.
everybody for being here. Does anybody
Yeah.
have any questions before we go? I don't know. I'm gonna let Rekkr take them though, because I have to say he had this down better than I did this chapter. I think, being with music and all, and being as creative as you are much more adaptable. Like you actually live and breathe this chapter a little better than I do.
I try to. I always like I think music is probably an excellent example for becoming adaptable and uh, and requiring to be adaptable. A lot of session musicians are not just like they'll have one particular area that they might specialize in. So you might have a session musician that can play jazz fantastically, or a session musician that can strum the guitar in ways that you'd never imagine. But then they'll also have this that also still be very highly skilled in other genres like pop or metal or blues. Some incredibly good blues players are freakishly crazy metal guitarists if they need to be.
Hmm. Oh, hey, Purple, do you mean the 50th law? Because there's a PDF to it right in the description. Nobody has to buy this book. They've actually released it as a PDF free. It's in the, I mean, they've already made their money on it and they're not really arguing about it. The PDF is in the link. I'm pirating the book. 50 would be proud of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he really cares. If that's the book you mean. The other one was Franklin and Eleanor, which is an excellent book. And I think it's on Kindle. It's actually part of, I think I got it free at Kindle, on Kindle at one time. Sleet says it's fun to listen to session outtakes. Wait, let me think. You really get to see who the great ones are and watch their creative process. I'm with you on that.
Mm.
I love acoustic live shows of some of the greatest artists out there. I'm always looking for those, on YouTube and stuff, right? Whenever you're talking about a new song, right, Rick? What's the first thing I do? I go look for the raw
Yep.
version. the way they perform it when it's just them in an instrument, to see what
Mm-hmm.
they really meant, to see their real process. I'm a nut about that stuff. Yeah.
If you ever want to hear an incredibly good example of what happens behind the scenes with musicians in some sessions, find a track called the Bitches Brew Session. It is literally basically a whole bunch of really drugged out musicians locked in a room playing jazz for over like I think they played for like 12 like more than 12 hours or something.
Hmm.
The engineer literally turned the tape on, left and went home, slept, came back, and I think they were still playing.
Wow, that's true. Blues musicians there. We missed a perfect example of the innovation of the market in not letting things change. COVID. During COVID, all the musicians were trapped home in separate. They couldn't collaborate together. They couldn't get together to do stuff. Some of the best stuff came out. People were sending tracks to each other, laying them down on top of each other, doing live feeds. In my country, like my cable company Fias did all of these incredible free live shows from people's houses,
Mm.
musicians. Like one of the one I shared with you, or Ryan Tandler and Benny Blanco had a song off, because these are some of, at the time, the best top 10 writers in pop and rock and everything. They write for everybody else. They
More like
make
top 5, even top
top, like,
3.
I mean, Beyonce, you name it. They had
You
top
name
hits.
it, they've written for them.
Everything that was at the top of the charts, one of those two wrote. So they did this pop off with each other with the songs back and forth. It was so great. It kept me entertained for hours. It made me a big fan of the two of them because they're so supportive of other artists and everything. Ryan Tandler is a producer, and he's done a couple of shows that help move people forward. Benny Blanco's just funny as anything, real genuine, does what he does, but they write and write and write and write, and they just give it away to everybody else, and you just don't even know that, because like it's all these other people performing the songs. I did not know he did Beyonce. Like Beyonce's 4 top songs were written by Benny Blanco. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. I didn't know
Most
that.
top songs that you hear are written by someone else,
Hmm. And Ryan
almost
Tandler,
100% of the time.
yeah, he has his own band and he does his own things, but he's too creative to do it just for his band. He wants to do other styles and other stuff. He's like writing for everybody. But I forgot that example. Like they used COVID to still keep
Mm.
pushing forward in a different way and keeping their names out there. And like some of the albums still came out because what they did, and they even made videos of people like just playing the Incubus is one of them that reminds me, because they had an album that came out right after that, and the drummer made videos of himself playing the tracks for all of the songs after they sent them to him. Do you remember seeing that on the Incubus YouTube
I
channel?
don't actually
Anybody?
think I remember. I don't actually think I
It's so
was following
amazing.
them.
No, it's so amazing. But yeah, like he did. He made like a track. He actually videoed it. He had his camera above him, which was great for a drummer, because like with a drummer, you don't actually see everything they're hitting on the kit if you come from the front. But if you come from the top, like you get into all of it, and it was really kind of cool. Actually, I recommend. It's just some weird thing I do. But yeah, that was innovative. That was like using piracy, like just like 50 used piracy. Like the whole music industry had to adapt during COVID. So did entertainment. So did all the museums and the public places that were doing free tours for people to keep them interested, like in keep people entertained. Like I remember sending links around to the family of tours all over the world, like the Louvre, in the Museum of Modern Art, the Museum of History. That we could just do these virtual tours because
Mm.
nobody could get out. It was really cool. Well, yeah, that was
People
a great
adapted very
example.
well.
Yeah, that was just keep moving. We could have all just stayed still, and some of us kind of did a little, but we tried, at least mentally, to move forward in some ways.
Mm.
So that was cool. Well, The engineer having a nap. Yes, Leet, I hear you. But I think on that, you ready to wrap up? I mean,
I think it's perfect time to wrap up.
I think it is too. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll be
Thank you
back
very much.
for those of you reading along. Chapter 5 next week.
Yep.
Let's see how I can mangle that and get confused. It's like, I can't believe this went through me as much, but I'm glad I finally got it because it is valuable. It all builds on each other. I'm noticing it
Yes.
all builds. It's, even when we talked about calculated momentum, it also is well entrenched with opportunism and realism. Like when
Yep.
you're dealing with your emotions, you have to deal with the reality of what's effective and what's not, what's really matters going forward. You have to deal with the reality of the situation, regardless of how you feel. In opportunism, just not shutting the door to all of this other opportunity that's out there just because you think it should go a certain way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. I'm learning. I like this book. Thank you, Rick. All right,
you.
guys. Thank you, everybody who came. Thank you, everybody who watches later.
Yes.
And if you have anything you'd like to ask us or to bring up, or just hit the back of the comment section. Rekkr and I, we both want to hear from you. We want to hear. So use it. Let us know. Like, we'll be open to it. Don't forget to like and share and do those YouTube things, because why not? Why not?
Yeah. Like it. Hit that like button. Hit it. Hit it. Also,
Hit it
the
hard.
subscribe button.
Oh no. Yeah, don't encourage. Don't encourage. The pressure. The pressure.
We need that 10,000.
No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. All right. I'm going to leave now before I say something dumb. Bye.
Bye.